Hello guys, thank you so much for joining me today. So today I'm going to be testing out 3 Fuji lenses that all share the same focal length. So I have got the 10-24 f4 lens, the 18mm f2 prime lens, and the 18-55 kit lens. So they all share the same focal length of 18mm. So I thought it'd be really good to get out in this gorgeous weather that we're having right now in the UK and test these lenses out side by side. So I'm not talking about autofocus or anything like that. It's just about image quality today. I just want to see which one performs the best. So I'm going to take a series of different shots, take them back to Lightroom, inspect the different images side by side and figure out which lens is the best, basically. So what I'll be doing as well is I'll be putting a file together for you to download. So you'll be able to download these images for yourselves and take a look for yourselves to see what you think as well. So stay tuned until the end because I'll be sharing the information about how to get those files. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed already and you like your landscape photography and your Fuji gear, please consider subscribing because I've got so much more coming out in the near future. I'll be heading out into the countryside most weeks, photographing the fantastic landscapes we've got here in the UK, also doing some wild camping expeditions as well, lots of adventure stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really good. Got some good collaborations coming up too, which I'm really looking forward to, and some coastal stuff as well next week. Today I'm going to head out and take a few shots. This is not going to be fantastic landscape photos. We're more talking about, you know, specific photos that I think will test the lenses out basically. And I think as well, I should mention at this point that I'll be using manual settings. So I'll have the camera on the tripod, locked down on the tripod. All the camera settings will be the same, the white balance will be the same. I'm not going to change anything. I'll be focusing on the same thing as well. I'm trying to use a 2-second timer to make sure there's no camera shake. There's very little wind around today as well, so should make testing these lenses out, yeah, pretty easy today. So let's get stuck into it, see if we can find a first subject and yeah, get cracking with this test. So that pretty much concludes the photography for today. Like I said, it wasn't a landscape photography mission really today. It was just a case of going out and taking a few test shots. So I'm going to go out on a whim here and kind of give you my thoughts before we look at the photographs. Now, I reckon the 18mm f2 lens, the prime lens, will do a better job. I think it will probably give a better quality image because it's a fixed focal length. And then the 10-24, the 18mm falls right in the middle of the zoom range, so you'd maybe assume that that's going to be better quality over the 18-55 kit lens, where the 18mm falls right at the beginning of the zoom range. So they're my initial thoughts anyway. It's going to be really interesting to find out if I'm right or wrong, or whether there's any difference at all. So let's get back to Lightroom. We'll take a look at these. I'll give you my thoughts and then I'll give you the information for downloading the images yourself so you can take a look for yourselves and make your own mind up. Okay guys, let's get off and get back to the computer. So back in the office now, I've got the images loaded into Lightroom. I've taken a quick look at them. I'm not going to spend ages talking about them because it's going to be easier for you to download them yourselves and take a look, and you can make your own minds up, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to see on your own computers than it is for me to try to show you through YouTube, because obviously YouTube compresses everything and you're not going to get the same quality. So yeah, I'll quickly talk through my thoughts initially, and then obviously you can download them and take a look for yourselves and make your own mind up. So first off, I've put the information in the bottom left-hand corner to all of the images, so you know which lens is taking which image. Like I said before, everything is locked down on a tripod, everything is in manual, so all of the settings are exactly the same for each shot. What I did in terms of focusing, I put it in manual focus and I use the AFL button to focus on a particular point in the image. So I'm kind of trying to eradicate any kind of user error. I'm just letting the camera and the lens focus. So yeah, hit that focus button and basically I'll focus on exactly the same point in every image. So we should get pretty consistent results. But this, this is a real world test. This is not scientific. It's not done in the lab, and I think that's the whole idea of this. I'd much prefer to see images that are shot in conditions that I would normally shoot in. Should also point out there was one issue as well, and that was with the 10-24 lens. I really struggled to zoom in at exactly 18mm in the focal range. I could get it to 17.8 and 18.2, but I could not nail it on 18mm. So all the 10-24 shots are at 18.2mm as opposed to 18mm. So there's a little bit of difference, but forgive me, I'll try my best, and hopefully it will serve the purpose for this. So we have the 18-55 focused at 18mm, f8 ISO 200 and 500ths of a second. Straightforward shot, this one, looking focused on the silver birches. And as we can see, perfectly exposed and nice and sharp. Very, 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 very happy with the quality of this shot. Gets a little bit soft around the edges, but I think, would expect that. But that could be a little bit of fall off in terms of depth of field as well. The main focus area was around here. Now, and to be honest, I've looked over the 18 f2 and the 10-24 f4, all focused at 18mm. And it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between these lenses. I would say that the 18 f2 is slightly sharper, but we're talking marginal. It is very, very difficult to tell the difference between the three images. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Again here, I decided to do something that I'll probably do quite a bit in landscape photography if we're shooting with a very, very high f number. So here we're shooting at f16. And because we've obviously trying to get a very large depth of field with the rushes and the trees in focus, what that means is obviously the shutter speed's been dropped down to get the correct exposure. But because it was quite breezy, the rushes were moving around. So in order to keep that shutter speed around about 250 per second, I bumped the ISO up a little bit to 400. So this is something that I probably would do in landscape photography when need be. Obviously, probably not that often, but it is something that would perhaps do. So it's quite good for this test. So yeah, I've got the three shots here, all focused on the trees in the background. And if we just zoom in, we can see it's a little softer with ISO at 400, but still exceptional quality. This shot is the 18-55. It's a little bit darker, but that could be the conditions changing slightly. I would say this a little bit softer than the 10-24, but it's very, very marginal. And the f2 lens I found overall to be a little bit sharper and the image quality just a little bit better. Again, very, very marginal. So moving on, this shot is, it's quite a high contrast scene actually. We've got very, very strong directional sunlight hitting the side of this pump station here, some bright highlights. In the swan, which kindly placed himself there for me, and obviously in the clouds. So here we're at f8 ISO 200, 640th of a second, and this is the 18-55 2.f4 lens. Now, I've really looked into this quite a bit to see if I could, pick the bones out of it basically, and looking at the detail in the brickwork here on all three images. I literally couldn't pick, I just could not pick one out of the three. The only difference I did find was the 18-55, the kit lens, was just a little bit sharper over here than the rest of them. So it just looks a little bit softer to me than the 18-55. But again, there could be a lighting change because the lighting in the first shot is just a little bit perhaps harsher than the third shot. That could be having a little bit of impact on the terms of, how much contrast and detail is in this area. But out of the three shots, I'd say the 18-55 looked a little bit sharper and better image quality here, but overall, they're all very much the same. Next up, I've took a close-in shot of the railings because what I did notice when I was doing these tests is the 18 f2 prime lens does have a bit of distortion actually, and the others don't. You can see it here. if you look at the top of this railing, it's curved. And if we look at the other images, we'll see they're a lot straighter. And if anything, the 10-24 is the other way, which is quite interesting. You can see a big difference between those two. In terms of image quality, all three exactly the same. I couldn't pick one, but yeah, there is a difference in the distortion in the image. As you can see, the 10-24 is almost concave, whereas the 18mm f2 is convexed, or vice versa. Whereas the 18-55 kit lens is pretty straight. So I'm finding it absolutely bizarre that the 18-55 has managed to keep up with these two lenses. Obviously the 10-24 is a lot more expensive than the 18-55, and the f2 being a prime lens, you'd expect it to walk all over the other two. So this test here is just another basic shot, and I've looked at this again quite closely, and it's just impossible to pick one really. But this is just my eyes, you guys probably look into it a bit more and see things that I've missed. So feel free, if you do, to drop me a comment below and let me know. But yeah, what I'm going to do is put them all in a file and you'll be able to download them. So if you follow the link in the description, you'll be able to go over to my Selfie store and pick these files up. Now, they're currently set at $2, but if you don't want to pay anything, that's absolutely fine with me. Obviously, your support is much appreciated, but if you want to pick them up for free, just type in free at checkout and you'll be able to download them for free. So guys, like I said before, this isn't a scientific test at all. It's a real world test. It's about shooting in conditions that I regularly shoot in and checking out these lenses side by side and to see really if it was worth taking the f2 lens out on a landscape photography trip alongside the other two lenses that cover that 18mm focal length range for me. And to be honest, I don't think it is, to be honest. I think it's just be taking up space in my bag. I don't think there's any benefit of me taking it. So it's been a worthwhile test. I hope you guys have got something from it, especially if you're thinking about buying one of those three lenses or all of those lenses. If you want to check the specs out, I'll leave a link in the description to the three lenses where you can go and check those out and read the reviews and etc. And yeah, if you liked it, hit the like button and please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. And I will see you next week where we'll be out in the Peak District taking some photographs in the gorgeous countryside. Okay guys, I'll see you next week.